His wife Su Qingfei sponsors poor students every month. But her grants grew larger and larger, draining out the money in her personal account. She asked me for 2 million yuan to support poor students to study abroad. After being rejected by me, she had a big quarrel with me and scolded me for being just a son-in-law. That day, a friend invited me to a bar for a drink, and there was singing and dancing on the stage. Ling Xiao, look at that man and woman, they are sticking to each other. I moved my gaze over and found that the woman's back was exactly the same as Su Qingfei's. Before I could see clearly, the two people disappeared. The teasing voices of the enthusiastic people around me filled my ears. The man is a male model sponsored by the rich woman. 1. The bar was still bustling with singing and dancing, but my mood hit rock bottom. We asked the enthusiastic crowd about the couple. But that's all they knew, and it was all hearsay. I took out my cell phone and called my wife, but she didn't answer. My friend pushed my shoulder and comforted me. Ling Xiao, didn't your wife give all her money to poor children? That can't be hers. It's just the back. I frowned, thinking back to that figure. Same height, same body shape, even the same hairstyle. Are there really so many coincidences? After returning home from the bar, I started looking for information about the poor student. I searched every corner of the house, but still found nothing. At this time, the cell phone rang. It was my wife calling me back. Why are you calling me? Have you figured it out? Her tone was impatient, but her breathing was rapid. Yesterday my wife asked me to give money to poor students to study abroad, but I refused. Qingfei, when will you come back? After a few seconds of silence on the other end of the phone, there was a heavy gasp. I'll be back when you agree. Okay, I promise. Hearing this, the wife hung up the phone. My heart felt like it was pierced by thousands of silver needles, leaving all of it broken. The sound just now was definitely not normal. But I still held on to the fantasy that everything that happened today was just my overthinking. An hour later, I was sitting on the sofa smoking a cigarette when my wife Su Qingfei came back. I was relieved to see that she was wearing jeans instead of a tight skirt. It shouldn't be her in the bar today. The wife suddenly reached out and scratched her chest. I got bit by a bug. It's so itchy. Her explanation seemed superfluous. At this moment, I am sure that my wife Su Qingfei is cheating outside. 2. I turned my head and saw the wedding photo hanging on the wall. Reminded me of the past with my wife. We met on a sunny afternoon. Su Qingfei scratched her arm while trying to save a stray cat. At that time, I thought she was as dazzling as an angel and fell in love with her at first sight. When I started my own company, Su Qingfei's father gave me 200,000 yuan as startup capital. He also used his connections to help me build relationships. So in Su Qingfei's eyes, I am just a son-in-law who depends entirely on their family. But she didn't know that her father took the 200,000 yuan that same day. The so-called connection was to give me the phone number of a real estate agent. Later, Su Qingfei's father also announced that without their family, I would not be where I am today. I thought we were all family, so I didn't explain it to anyone else. Her father took millions from me, and I never told anyone else. Just half a year ago, his wife Su Qingfei suddenly said she wanted to sponsor poor students. I asked her who was sponsoring it. Every time she said that this was the privacy of poor students and could not be disclosed. The amount of financial support from his wife grew larger and larger, draining out their savings. I give her and the poor students a considerable amount of living expenses every month. But my wife was still not satisfied and asked me to give money to poor students to study abroad. My wife and I had a big fight about this. Now thinking back on the past 6 months, I can see that my wife has changed a lot in many details. Her outfits have gone from being comfortable to something that flatters her figure. Couples programs are either rejected or perfunctory. But her face was very rosy and she almost never left her cell phone. In fact, she was eating outside and had no time to care about me. I'm going to take a shower and change my clothes. My wife gave me a cold look and went straight to the bathroom. Her bag fell off the shoe cabinet and I walked over to pick it up. A black hip dress was revealed. My Adam's apple moved and I kept swallowing my saliva. This dress is the same one the woman in the bar today wore. There was also a faint smell of alcohol and cigarettes. 3. The bathroom door suddenly closed and then opened again. My wife ran over at the speed of a 100-meter sprint and snatched the dress from my hand. What are you doing with my skirt? She looked a little annoyed. I frowned and spoke slowly. The skirt fell out of the bag. Xingfei, do you have a set of clothes ready for going out now? The wife was stunned for a moment, but she immediately nodded. I prepared an extra set of clothes in case of unexpected situations. With that, the wife took the skirt into the bathroom, along with her cell phone. But just now, when she was very close to me, I saw the mark on her chest clearly. There are clear bite marks of human teeth on it. I sat back on the sofa and slowly took out a cigarette. The lighter didn't work and it didn't light up after several attempts. But a raging fire had already been burning in my heart. Just as I was smoking my third cigarette, Su Qingfei came out of the bathroom. At this moment, she had changed into pajamas with a high collar, which completely covered the red marks on her chest. She frowned and fanned her nose with her hand, her face full of disgust. Old men not only smell like old people, but also smell like cigarettes. My wife's subtle murmurs still floated into my ears. I put out the cigarette and smiled bitterly. It turns out that in my wife's heart, I am already an old man with an old-fashioned air. But she and I are the same age. My wife sat down on the sofa opposite me and spoke first. I calculated that the first year of studying abroad is about 2 million. Please transfer the money to my card in the next 2 days. I rubbed my temples to calm myself down. Everything now is just speculation on my part. Without real evidence, she won't admit it and no one will believe it. If you want to catch a thief, you have to catch the dirty one. I can't be impulsive. Xingfei, I can give you 2 million, but I have a request. A flash of joy appeared in my wife's eyes, and she stared at me with narrowed eyes. What do you want? I want to meet that poor student. I have to know what the person who took my 2 million looks like, right? I crossed my legs and waited for my wife's answer. I have to ask for her consent for this matter. Children like this have strong self-esteem. I nodded in agreement with her point of view. The doorbell suddenly rang and the wife immediately stood up and walked to the door. The screen she placed casually on the coffee table flashed. A message was sent. Sister, eat more of the takeaway I ordered for you. You must be exhausted just now, right? It was followed by an emoticon with an evil smile. The sound of a door closing was heard and I looked away. The wife was holding the takeaway with a happy smile on her face. I'm hungry, so I ordered takeout. Do you want to eat something with me? I shook my head and said, eat it. I'm going to take a shower. The wife picked up the phone, looked at it, and immediately chuckled. I was at the bathroom door, about to come out, but I heard the voice message my wife played. Sister, you are the only one who can sit in the passenger seat of my sports car. It's a male but with a bubbling voice. Is he the poor student sponsored by his wife? No, according to what the enthusiastic people said, it should be a sponsored male model. After walking out of the bathroom, my wife was still concentrating on playing with her mobile phone. I glanced at her phone screen and saw a picture of a Porsche sports car. This sports car costs almost 2 million. It turned out that the wife bought a sports car for the male model in the name of helping poor students study abroad. 4. The moment my wife saw me, she was so scared that she dropped her phone on the ground. Shenlingxiao, how come you came out without making any sound? I grinned softly, maybe you were too focused on your phone. I bent down and tried to help my wife pick up the phone, but she got there before me. Xiao Wu said he can meet you tomorrow night. My eyes widened. I didn't expect the other party to agree so readily. Okay, so the kid's last name is Wu? My wife rolled her eyes at me and went into the bedroom mumbling something. You are just a son-in-law. Without my family, how could you be where you are today? How ungrateful. You're still wasting money on such a small amount of money. I don't know if she wanted me to hear it on purpose or if it was an accident. I took a deep breath and stared at my wife's back with my eyes narrowed. He quickened his pace and picked up his wife. Shenlingxiao, what do you want to do? My wife screamed and struggled desperately in my arms. I put her on the big bed in the bedroom. He held her hands firmly. Xingfei, what else can I do? Of course, we should do what couples should do. Hearing this, the wife struggled even harder, her eyes filled with fear and disgust. Shenlingxiao, I'm very tired today and I'm not in the mood. She kept kicking me in the abdomen, treating me as an enemy. I let go of her with a smile, rest well if you are tired. I'll sleep in the guest bedroom tonight. After saying that, I walked out of the master bedroom and closed the door for her. In fact, the physical contact just now has already made me feel physically uncomfortable. The images of my wife and the male model kept flashing in my mind. The 1984 World Cup was held in Beijing. I rushed into the bathroom and vomited into the toilet. The next evening, I arrived at the agreed restaurant early. After waiting for more than 10 minutes, Su Qingfei appeared with a girl who looked like a student. In fact, I had expected that my wife would find someone to impersonate me. But I was surprised when the girl took out a lot of photos with her wife and some transfer certificates. I will definitely study hard abroad and will not let my sister and uncle down. The girl made a solemn promise, and his wife patted the girl on the shoulder. Xiao Wu, the takeaway you ordered yesterday was delicious. All this made me confused. Could it be that the person in the bar was not my wife? Were those text messages sent to her by girls? But that voice was clearly from a male. A lot of questions confused my mind. The waiter accidentally spilled water on his wife's clothes. The wife got up and went to the bathroom to tidy up. I looked at the girl in front of me and spoke slowly. Xiao Wu, which store did you order fried chicken for Sister Qingfei from last night? The girl's eyes immediately became flustered. I don't remember, I just ordered something random. But last night my wife's takeout was not fried chicken, but pizza. I made an excuse and quickly left the restaurant. In fact, I didn't walk far, but sat in the car and observed. Soon a young figure appeared in the field of vision. He and his wife hugged each other in public. Anger and shame suddenly rushed to the top of his head. I threw a punch at the male model my wife was supporting. But when I saw his face clearly, I froze in place. How could it be him? 5. His eyes were fixed on the person in front of him, and his fist was in the air. My wife stepped on my foot hard with her high heels. Shen Lingxiao, what are you crazy about? The man grinned at me. Brother-in-law, long time no see. He is my wife's cousin who works in another province. I unclenched my fists. I was too rash and didn't understand the whole story. His wife Su Qingfei's eyes were as big as bells and she put her hands on her hips. Shen Lingxiao, didn't you say something happened at the company? BT Rabbit C Rabbit and $C Story PW Story House 2 a pickup FF3H6 This, D text O do not D private KK self, % move transport Y. Why are you back again? I pulled the corners of my mouth and explained awkwardly. The company said everything is fine. Su Qingfei was going to send the girl back and asked me to entertain her cousin. I agreed without hesitation. But my cousin dragged me to the bar. Brother-in-law, let's go to the stage and dance together. I shook my head and refused, sipping my wine and thinking about everything that happened today. There seems to be no evidence that his wife has cheated on him yet. The cell phone was vibrating wildly in my pocket. It was my wife calling. I took my phone and went to the door of the bar to answer it. Ling Xiao, you've seen the person, when will you pay me? I could tell my wife was a little impatient. Qingfei, the company's cash flow is a bit tight recently. Give me 2 more days. Okay, just 2 days. As soon as he finished speaking, a busy tone came from the receiver. Maybe the only thing left between Su Qingfei and I is money. When I returned to the bar, my cousin was already sitting in the booth. He drank the wine in big gulps, looking very satisfied. Brother-in-law, you wouldn't mistake me for my sister's lover today, right? My cousin opened his mouth wide, laughed happily, and patted my shoulder. I frowned, and for a moment I couldn't tell whether my cousin in front of me was testing me. Oh, could it be that I really have a lover? Seeing that I didn't say anything, my cousin continued talking to himself and browsing on his phone. A few minutes later, he suddenly snorted into the phone. I'm just waiting to see when he can buy this 2 million Porsche. He must be kept by some rich woman. My heart skipped a beat. Another coincidence? I cleared my throat and looked at my cousin in confusion. Cousin, who wants to buy a Porsche? Upon hearing this, my cousin started giving me a long lecture. He had a junior high school classmate who started out as a gang member not long after graduation. Not long ago, their junior high school classmates had a reunion, and this classmate showed up wearing all branded clothes. He also paid for the evening's meal. It seems that he made a lot of money, but some of their classmates said privately that this classmate was working as a male model. I was spotted by a rich woman some time ago, so I live a wealthy life now. Just now this classmate posted a message on WeChat Moments, and the picture attached was a Porsche sports car. The copy is, in 2 days, you will become mine. Cousin, which Porsche is he going to buy? My cousin immediately handed the phone to me. Brother-in-law, look, this is it. I stared at the phone for 10 seconds. It was exactly the same car as the one my wife was seeing. Even the color is exactly the same. It's a small world. The male model sponsored by my wife has been found. 6. Cousin, do you dislike this male classmate? My cousin nodded repeatedly. When we were in school, he and I were sworn enemies. I learned from my cousin that this male classmate was named Zhang Haofeng. Judging from the photos, she is indeed young and energetic, and her facial features are also good. Probably the type my wife likes. Yo, like a woman, you posted another circle of friends. What a disgusting thing. Listening to my cousin's chatter, I grabbed his phone. It was a photo of a hotel room with two figures hugging each other. I zoomed in on the photo and saw a lady's handbag in the lower right corner. Looking at this handbag, the corners of my mouth curled up. This is the bag that my wife Su Qingfei is wearing today, and it is a custom-made one. There is a word engraved under its trademark. Hey, why did Zhang Haofeng delete his moments again? My cousin kept swiping his phone, but he could no longer see the photo. I took a sip of wine, curled my lips and looked at him. Cousin, do you want to see a good show by Zhang Haofeng? My cousin stared at me with confusion. Brother-in-law, what do you mean? Expose Zhang Haofeng's true identity and let everyone know that he is a male model kept by a rich woman. When my cousin heard what I said, his eyes lit up and he was eager to try it. Brother-in-law, can I invite one of my classmates? He is a live streamer with 500,000 fans, and he also hates Zhang Haofeng. You can ask him to do a live broadcast later. I immediately gave it a thumbs up, and things started to get interesting. The scene of catching an adulterer should be very lively. I recognized the hotel in the photo at first sight. It is a 5-star hotel in the city, and the owner of this hotel is my friend. When my cousin and I arrived at the hotel entrance, his classmates were waiting for us with 2 mobile phones. My friend was also waiting for me in the hotel lobby. He patted my shoulder and looked at me meaningfully. I checked the surveillance video. It was her. This is the room card. I don't know whether it was right or wrong to ask you to drink that day. I took the room card and walked towards the elevator. My cousin and his classmates followed immediately. Brother-in-law, why don't I understand what your friend is saying? Aren't you here to expose Zhang Haofeng? Could it be that your friend also knows Zhang Haofeng? I raised my eyebrows and revealed an unfathomable expression. You'll know in a moment. Instead of rushing into the room, I stopped at the door for a while. A familiar gasp was heard in the room. My cousin and his classmates had a blush on their cheeks. Taking a deep breath, I swiped the room card and pushed the door open. There were scattered clothes on the floor and the handbag was still on the table. There was silence in the room for a moment, but screams immediately rang out again. Some people were taking pictures from various angles with their mobile phones, while others just stood there in a daze. Cousin, why is it you? My cousin was already standing there in amazement. But what was strange was that there was only his wife in the room, and no sign of Zhang Haofeng. But there was clearly a man's coat on the ground. At this time, the wife finally came to her senses and hurriedly looked for her cell phone. She seemed to be tipping off. But at this moment, footsteps were heard at the door, and there was a sound of something falling. Zhang Haofeng, don't run. My cousin suddenly shouted, and then he and his classmates ran out. 7. I walked to the door, squatted down, and picked up the bag. He frowned. There were some small toys inside. I tossed the bag to my wife and said, "That's quite a lot of fun." It was only then that I suddenly noticed that the TV was playing a small movie. Su Qingfei's face turned red, but she still insisted on being stubborn. I don't know what you're talking about. I sat down on the sofa and lit a cigarette. He stared at her meaningfully. I said, "You are a person with great love. Support poor students to buy Porsche sports cars." Suddenly Su Qingfei's face turned like a ripe tomato, red from her neck to her ears. She jumped out of bed, her bathrobe already on. "Shen Lingxiao, what nonsense are you talking about? Didn't you meet Xiao Wu, whom I sponsored, today? That money is for her to study abroad." At this time, the wife was actually speaking righteously and lying with her eyes open. I took a puff of my cigarette and blew a cloud of blue-gray smoke towards her. At this time, my cousin ran back panting. "Brother-in-law, that brat Zhang Haofeng ran too fast. I can't catch up with him." I nodded slightly without saying anything. "Sister, are you the rich woman who supports Zhang Haofeng?" The cousin stared at his wife in disbelief. I smiled and said, "Your sister is not supporting him, she is sponsoring him. Zhang Haofeng is a poor student." With a bang, my cousin was hit by the pillow thrown by his wife. "Get as far away from me as you can, you little brat." The room was quiet again, with only my wife and I left. "Shen Lingxiao, don't forget, you are just a son-in-law. Without my dad, you would be nothing." Su Qingfei looked at me with her teeth bared, her eyes full of ferocity. It seemed like I was the one who did something wrong. Suddenly, my wife covered her mouth and ran to the bathroom quickly. Soon after, the sound of vomiting followed. My brows furrowed tighter and tighter, and I put out the cigarette in my hand. Standing up, I walked to the bathroom door and leaned against the wall. Su Qingfei was half squatting with her face facing the toilet. She kept vomiting into the toilet and looked miserable. After a full 10 minutes, she finally got up with difficulty. Su Qingfei wiped the corner of her mouth and said, "Maybe the dinner I had tonight was not clean." I looked her up and down. "It's not about dinner, it's about you. You must be pregnant." In an instant, his wife's face turned pale and her eyes flashed with panic. Suddenly my wife walked towards me slowly and took my hand. "Ling Xiao, you are going to be a father." I was shocked by the rapid change of her expression. She placed my hand on her belly again. "Touch it, this is our child." I pulled my hand back as if I had been electrocuted. The physical discomfort came again. "Qingfei, are you sure the child is mine?" "Ling Xiao, if the child is not yours, whose else could it be?" There was determination in the wife's eyes. I bit my lip, a little shaken. "Judging from the time, it is not impossible." "Ling Xiao, I just came to the hotel to watch a movie alone today." "There's really nothing else, don't think too much about it." I didn't say anything more about her explanation. Now the more difficult question is, whose child does the child belong to? 8. After returning home from the hotel, the wife was immersed in excitement. She called her father-in-law to report the good news. My wife's pregnancy interrupted my original plan. I don't feel any joy about this news. On the contrary, I was a little scared, afraid that the child was really mine. The window paper of my marriage with my wife has been broken halfway. I wanted to smoke, but then I remembered that my wife was pregnant. So I walked out of the house and went to the community garden. Just as I was about to take out a cigarette, my cell phone started vibrating in my pocket. I glanced at the screen and saw it was my father-in-law calling. "Ling Xiao, you have to be nice to Qingfei. She is pregnant with your child." For a woman, pregnancy is like having one foot in the coffin. My father-in-law talked a lot, and finally he got to the point. "Ling Xiao, I'm short of money recently, so give me 300,000 first." I shook my head at the phone and hung up. I kept giving him money because I wanted to maintain my marriage with my wife. I also want to be kind to her family. But now that she's betrayed me, it's all meaningless. My phone vibrated again. I thought it was my father-in-law calling again. I wanted to hang up, but my hand slipped to the answer button. "Ling Xiao, come to my place. There's something you might be able to use." I glanced at the screen and saw that it was my friend who runs a hotel. As soon as we arrived at my friend's house, he poured me a glass of wine. "Ling Xiao, we caught a secret photographer in our hotel." I looked at my friend with a question mark on my face. "What does this have to do with me?" "That guy installed a hidden camera in the hotel room." The 1980s and 1990s was a very important year for the American people. The corner of my mouth twitched, and I began to understand what my friend meant. Could it be that Su Qingfei's room has also been installed? My friend snapped his fingers and nodded at me. "Now enjoy this wonderful moment between your wife and another man?" Although I heard him asking for my opinion, he started playing the video in the blink of an eye. His wife's voice rang in his ears again, and the images of Zhang Haofeng and his wife entangled appeared on the screen. I picked up the remote and turned it off directly. But my friend had a playful look on his face. "We could have taken more exciting shots, but who knew you would show up halfway through? What a pity for those toys." I remained silent and took a big sip of wine. "What are you going to do now? Isn't it too easy for her to just let her leave the house with nothing?" He shook the red wine glass in his hand, and he had solid evidence that his wife was cheating on him. "Su Qingfei is pregnant, and she said the child is mine." My friend looked at me in shock and said nothing. That night, I got drunk and slept at my friend's house. When I woke up in the morning, my phone had a lot of unread text messages. Su Qingfei sent me a lot of messages, all asking me where I was going. He even slandered me, asking if I had another woman. He was really just the thief crying stop thief. Although I didn't figure out how to deal with my wife at the moment, there was no problem dealing with Zhang Haofeng. Just when I was about to call my cousin, he called me instead. Brother-in-law, I found where Zhang Haofeng lives. I drove hurriedly to the location sent by my cousin. When my cousin saw me, he immediately patted his chest. Brother-in-law, I stand on the side of truth. I will not favor my cousin. But I know that my cousin actually can't stand Zhang Haofeng being better than him. Brother-in-law, he's out. Zhang Haofeng hummed a little tune, took the car keys, and walked towards an SUV. I winked at my cousin and he immediately understood. 9. When Zhang Haofeng opened the car door, my cousin and I opened the other two doors and got in the car at the same time as him. What are you going to do? Zhang Haofeng's trembling voice was heard in the car. I snatched Zhang Haofeng's car keys and licked my lips with a smile. This car must be over 600,000 yuan. Qingfei is really willing to spend money on you. Zhang Haofeng's face turned pale instantly, but he was just like his wife, still trying to be stubborn. I don't know what you're talking about. I bought this car myself. I don't know the Qingfei you're talking about either. If you two don't get out of the car, I'm calling the police. I clapped my hands softly. You are a good young man, you have courage, so call the police right away. Let everyone know that you are being kept by a rich woman. I shook my head again. No, actually, if you think about it carefully, it seems like I'm the one supporting you. You have to call me your financial sponsor. With a puff, my cousin sitting in the back row laughed out loud. Brother-in-law, you make the matter of being a cuckold refreshing. I glared back and my cousin immediately shut up. Do you have any evidence? If not, I will sue you for defamation. Zhang Haofeng and his wife are very similar in this respect, as if they had discussed it beforehand. I took out my phone and played the video of the hotel room. Do you think this evidence is sufficient? I glanced back and saw that my cousin's eyes were about to fall out. Zhang Haofeng's face kept changing from white to red. Brother, I was wrong. Can you please not let others know about this? He stared at me with pleading eyes. My image cannot collapse, otherwise how can I face people in the future? My cousin who was sitting in the back row burst into laughter again, holding his belly. Zhang Haofeng, you look like a jerk. Where does your personality come from? Everyone has known you for a long time. Before my cousin could finish his words, I hit him. Shut up. Suddenly the car fell silent and my cousin covered his mouth with his hands. Brother, I will return all the money my sister gave you. As Zhang Haofeng spoke, he took out his cell phone and transferred money to me. I glanced at the amount. Is that all? This car is the same, right? This watch is the same, right? Are these the clothes you're wearing? Zhang Haofeng forced a smile, took off his watch, and started to take off his clothes. Finally he was stripped down to his underwear. Go run around the neighborhood twice. Brother, do you really want to run? There was a look of grievance in his eyes. It's okay if you don't run, but I'm afraid this video. Brother, I'll go right away. As soon as he finished speaking, Zhang Haofeng rolled and crawled out of the car. Brother-in-law, I'll help you supervise. There was uncontrollable joy on my cousin's face. 20 minutes later, Zhang Haofeng came back panting. The whole person looked very eye-catching and many people were pointing fingers at him. Is there something wrong with this guy's brain? Should we call the police? Should we send him to a mental hospital? I got out of the car, folded my arms and looked down at Zhang Haofeng. Brother, are you satisfied? He had a flattering look on his face and a slightly sincere look in his eyes, worthy of being a male model. In fact, if you lose Su Qingfei, you can still find the next meal ticket. I do know a few wealthy women. If you want, I can introduce them to you. Zhang Haofeng's eyes widened so wide that an egg could fit into his mouth. For a man like him, once he has enjoyed a life of getting something for nothing, there is no way he can give it up. On the surface, he is very concerned about his reputation, but in the end, face is worthless in the face of money. Not my brother-in-law, what's your trick? Why can't I understand? My cousin held the phone in his hand, his brows furrowed wider and wider. Brother, do you really want to help introduce me to a rich sister? The male model is worthy of being a male model. In his mouth, the rich woman instantly becomes a rich sister. But you have to do me a favor. 10. Zhang Haofeng was honest and sold all his luxury goods. He gave me all the money he could. In fact, I don't know how much money my wife spent on him, but the amount he paid me back was not small. When I got home, my father-in-law was sitting on the sofa watching TV. Hey, Ling Xiao is back. Look, I bought a lot of fruits. Xingfei should eat more fruits since she is pregnant. I glanced at them out of the corner of my eye and saw some apples, pears, and the like. Ling Xiao, I really need money now. Can you give me 300,000 first? I sat down on the sofa opposite him. Father-in-law, it's not that I don't want to give it to you. I'm short of money recently, and Xingfei asked me for 2 million to support poor students to study abroad. My father-in-law immediately jumped up and down and rubbed his ears, as if he couldn't believe what he heard. You said Xingfei gave 2 million to a stranger? I nodded, confirming what my father-in-law said. Su Xingfei, get out here. My father-in-law roared loudly towards the bedroom. 5 minutes later, my wife came out with sleepy eyes. Dad, why are you so loud? You might scare the baby. But at this time, my father-in-law had no time to care about the pregnancy. You're a spendthrift girl, giving 2 million to a stranger? Did you get kicked in the head by a donkey? The father-in-law became more and more excited as he spoke, and he pushed his wife forward. The wife stumbled a few steps but did not fall. Dad, are you trying to murder your grandson? What grandson or not, you can't give my money to outsiders now. The father and daughter started arguing with each other. I didn't say anything to persuade them, but just sat aside and watched the show quietly. Suddenly, the wife understood. Dad, what are we arguing about? Isn't Ling Xiao's money all yours and mine? Without your first pot of gold and connections, how could he be who he is today? So his property belongs to us, father and daughter. I have to give my wife a thumbs up for her logic. My father-in-law looked a little embarrassed. Xingfei, let's not talk about the past. Maybe he still has some sense of shame and knows he is in the wrong. Dad, don't be silly, how can you not mention this? A drop of kindness should be repaid with a spring of gratitude. Your kindness is much greater than a drop of water. He, Xin Lingxiao, is just a son-in-law who relies on women. I drummed my fingers on the couch and turned my gaze toward my father-in-law. Father-in-law, every sum of money I gave you before is recorded. I can get it back any time. The father-in-law immediately shook his head and said, Ling Xiao, we are all family. It doesn't matter whether we get it back or not. Xingfei, please don't mention this again. Ling Xiao is not a son-in-law, he relies on himself. That's when I remembered. I have something else to do. I'll leave first. Ling Xiao, since you are short of money, forget about the 300,000. After saying this, my father-in-law disappeared from sight at a very fast speed. The wife stood there in a daze, muttering to herself. This old man must be out of his mind. I sighed and told him what happened that year. Xingfei, he took the 200,000 yuan your father gave him that day. Your family has never given me any help. On the contrary, your father has taken a lot from me over the years. The wife stood there, how is this possible? Maybe in her mind, she always feels superior to me and is unwilling to believe the fact. 11. I found an excuse to go on a 2-week business trip abroad. Zhang Haofeng asked his wife out as I requested. I asked my wife to do a paternity test, but she definitely didn't want to. So I asked Zhang Haofeng to come forward and coax my wife into doing a paternity test. I watched them in disguise. Sister, is this child mine or your husband's? The wife shook her head and said, I don't know either. Sister, let's do a paternity test. If the child is mine, can we get married? Don't worry, I will definitely make money to support you and the baby. Zhang Haofeng made Su Qingfei stunned. Haofeng, you are stupid. If the baby is yours, then Xin Lingxiao should raise it. We can take away all his property. I frowned. My wife really cared about me. Not only did he cheat on me, he also wanted me to be his cheap father and take away my property. After my wife finished the identification, I took off my disguise and appeared in front of her. Zhang Haofeng immediately ran towards me. Brother, I didn't touch her at all. You have completed the task you assigned for me. When will you introduce me to a rich sister? He doesn't hide it at all now. Zhang Haofeng, what are you talking about? Why do you call Xin Lingxiao brother? Zhang Haofeng curled his lips, how can you, an old woman, be so stupid? You have no money, why am I still playing house with you? As they were talking, Su Qingfei had already grabbed Zhang Haofeng's hair and the two started to wrestle. Zhang Haofeng, you bastard. Seeing my wife so excited, she must be really moved. I didn't get involved, but still reaped the benefits. Suddenly a terrible scream filled my ears. Zhang Haofeng pushed his wife down the stairs, and red liquid immediately gushed out. I frowned, it seemed that the child could not be saved. Zhang Haofeng ran away in fear. When my wife was sent out of the emergency room, the results of the paternity test report came out. But the result was meaningless because the baby in his wife's belly was gone. Ling Xiao, the baby is gone, we can have another one. I curled my lips and smiled. Su Qingfei, is the child really mine? She nodded vigorously. I threw the appraisal report next to her bed, along with a divorce agreement. He took out his cell phone again and sent her the video of the hotel. Sign it quickly. After saying that, I left, leaving her hysterical roar behind me. The child was Zhang Haofeng's, and he killed his own child with his own hands. While escaping, Zhang Haofeng was hit on the head by a car and became a vegetable. Su Qingfei refused to sign, saying that although she had cheated on me, she loved me. Even if that video spreads all over the world, I am the one who is embarrassed, not her. She will haunt me all my life. Just when I was about to file for divorce, Su Qingfei signed the divorce agreement. It turned out that my father-in-law was afraid that I would take back the money I gave him, so he forced Su Qingfei to sign. After that, I simply locked up Su Qingfei for fear that she would bother me again. Not long after, I heard that Su Qingfei had serious mental problems and was sent to a mental hospital. One sunny afternoon, she jumped from a tall building. My career was getting more and more prosperous, and 3 years later, I got married and had my own child. End of article.